Tugboat-Theodore. He's a tugboat and a friendly tugboat too. A friendly tugboat too. Oh, Theodore likes to do the things that friendly tugboats do.
You there. Hello. I'm just finishing getting the big board ready for another busy day here in the big harbor.
I've got one last one to put right there in this dock. That's that, and
Yeah, we're done. Oh, I was here bright and early this morning. So like all the jobs that I was supposed to do finished. Now I can... Excuse me. Harbor Master. Yes, I've checked the weather today. No, it's clear sailing all day long. Over and out. Now, as I was saying, I'm really glad that I finished all the work that I was supposed to do. Because now I have the time to tell you about the time that Theodore didn't have any time. The morning mist was swirling gently around the great ocean dock. The tugboats were just shaking the sleep from their eyes. But Theodore was wide awake, with a fresh sunrise smile, waiting for the dispatcher to begin the work meeting. You see, today was a special day. In fact, every day this week was going to be special. That's because this week it was Theodore's turn to welcome all the ships who were coming to the harbor for the first time. "Good morning, tugboats," said the dispatcher, beginning the meeting. "Good morning," the tugs all tooted, lining up. "We have a new ship arriving in our harbor today," the dispatcher announced. Well, that was exactly what Theodore was hoping the dispatcher was going to say. A new ship meant that he would get to welcome her and tell stories and maybe make a new friend. "Emily, you will be the tug in charge," said the dispatcher. "George, this is a big ship. I would like you to help." "Big ships are what I move best," beamed George. "And Theodore, it's your turn this week to welcome new ships." "I know," smiled Theodore. "Please proceed immediately," finished the dispatcher. Emily, George, and Theodore began to turn from the great ocean dock, already warming up their engines. "It's a long way to go today," called the dispatcher. "Does everyone have enough oil?" "I do," said Emily. "Me too," said George. began Theodore. I don't know." "Well, when was the last time you checked your oil, Theodore?" the dispatcher asked. "I can't remember," admitted Theodore. "I think you'd better go check it now," suggested the dispatcher. "Do I have to right now?" said Theodore. He really wanted to go and welcome the new ship. "I shouldn't have to remind you," replied the dispatcher. "Everyone needs to have a full tank of oil every day before they go to work." "Okay," said Theodore. Theodore turned towards the oil dock. "We'll wait for you," called Emily. "Don't be late," added George. "I hope I won't be late to meet the ship," Theodore thought to himself as he hurried off. Well, it turned out Theodore hardly had any oil at all. He had to wait. And wait. And wait. For his whole tank to fill up. "Where is he?" said Emily, looking around for Theodore. "The new ship should be arriving any moment." The tugs always liked to be early when new ships came into the harbor. That gave them plenty of time to tell stories and make friends. "I hear this ship has been all over the world," said George. Well, now Emily really wanted to get going and meet the ship. She just loved hearing stories from faraway places. But they had to wait for Theodore. And wait, and wait, and wait. It was almost afternoon by the time Theodore had filled up his tank and set off to welcome the ship with George and Emily. They could see the ship waiting for them out on the ocean. Theodore couldn't wait to tell the new ship all about the big harbor. First, I'll tell her that this is the friendliest harbor in the whole world, he thought to himself. And then I'll tell her about the whale we had in the harbor, and then... "Tugboats?" called the big ship. "Can we get going? I've been waiting here a long time for you, and now I'm very late," she added. She was sounding very grumpy. Well, there wasn't going to be any time for storytelling, or even welcomes. Everyone was very quiet as they tugged the ship into the harbor. The ship was upset about being late. Emily and George were upset too because they didn't get a chance to tell stories and make friends with her. Theodore thought it was all because of him. The next morning, Theodore was up extra early. Today, he really wanted to be on time, in case he had another chance to welcome a new ship. Sure enough, the dispatcher announced that a new ship was arriving that very morning. Once again, he sent Emily and George to bring him in. Then he turned to Theodore. "Theodore, remember, you are the official welcomer all week." "Oh, I remember," smiled Theodore. "Theodore?" "Yes, sir." "Did you get your oil this morning?" asked the dispatcher. Well, a great big cloud seemed to float over Theodore's sunny smile. "Not yet," answered Theodore in a very quiet voice. "You'd better hurry," said the dispatcher. Just then, they all heard a ship's horn. The new ship was already approaching the harbor. George and Emily didn't say anything, but they were both thinking that if they had to wait for Theodore again, they wouldn't have any time to tell stories and make friends with the ship. Theodore knew that too. He didn't want to make everyone late again. And he didn't want everyone to be upset because of him. "Emily, George," he said softly, "could you welcome the ship for me?" "Okay, Theodore," said Emily. "Try and come as soon as you can." And then, without another word, Emily and George hurried off. "I wish I could welcome the ship," Theodore said softly. At the end of the day, the Tugs were all gathered around the great ocean dock for story time. George and Emily were telling everyone about the new ship. "His name is Constantine," said Emily, "and he's from Greece. That's all the way across the ocean." "He's been on every ocean," said George in his biggest voice. "And he tells great jokes, too." George told one of Constantine's jokes. And the Tugs laughed so hard they tooted their whistles. All the Tugs, that is, except one. "I think I'll go to sleep now," said Theodore quietly. Emily motored over to Theodore. "What's the matter?" she said at last. "Oh, nothing, I guess," Theodore replied slowly. "Don't you want to tell stories tonight?" "I don't really have any stories to tell," replied Theodore. "I didn't get to meet the new ship. I had to get my oil again." "I'm sorry you didn't get to welcome the new ship," said Emily. Everyone has time to welcome new ships, said Theodore, except me. I used to forget my oil too, said Emily. You did? Said Theodore. Well, then what happened? Well, nothing really, Emily said thoughtfully. I guess I just started remembering. Oh, said Theodore. Emily yawned a big yawn. Time for me to go to sleep, Theodore. Good night. Remembering, Theodore said to himself. Suddenly, he knew that it was time for him to do something. Something very important. Early the next day, the morning mist was swirling gently around the great ocean dock. Tugboats, said the dispatcher, beginning the work meeting. This is a very busy week. Today we have another new ship arriving in our harbor. Once again, the dispatcher chose George and Emily to bring in the new ship. Then he turned to Theodore. Theodore, you will welcome the ship. Proceed immediately. The tugs began to turn from the great ocean dock, already warming up their engines. Theodore, the dispatcher called. Did you check your oil? Oh, no, grumbled George. Not again. Yes, I did, replied Theodore. Are you sure you have enough? Asked the dispatcher. Yes, I'm sure, said Theodore. I went to the oil dock last night, right before I went to sleep. I see, said the dispatcher, sounding a bit surprised. Then, you'll want to hurry out and welcome the new ship, he added with a smile in his voice. Theodore floated up to George and Emily. Well, he said, what are we waiting for? Let's welcome that new ship together. Well, in no time at all, the tugs had reached the new ship, who was just coming into the harbor for the first time. They all whistled their friendliest welcome whistle to the ship. When the ship saw all the tugboats coming to welcome her, she was very happy. Oh, she said, it's so nice to have such a welcome. Well, it's so nice to be able to welcome you, smiled Theodore. And then everyone moved really, really close to tell stories and make new friends. Yes, they had lots of time that day to tell great stories. And I had lots of time to tell you that story. But you know what I think I'll do now? I think I'll answer some letters. Thanks for visiting us here in the Big Harbor. We'll see you all again next time. Now, where is that pencil of mine? Look, I haven't had these out in some time. And I do have lots of time. So, hey, I'll put you there. And you can go right there. And look. You can go in the middle and look at both of them.